All right, great to be here with Concord once again. I'm a huge fan, love the work you guys are doing. And right out of the gate, I have to say I apologize because I dropped the ball on time. If any of you had dropped in earlier, I had it in my mind. It was Central Time. I'm based in Fort Worth, and it was Eastern Time. So my apologies, but nonetheless, it's recorded. I'm excited to share some of this content with you of what we have going on. Let me just give you a brief introduction for those that aren't aware of me. I will say, if you have questions about what we're doing, go to StreetTacoEater.com. You can, all the socials, the foundation, everything is there if you want to feel for where I'm coming from and what it is we're doing. But by way of brief introduction, I've been a gamer since the early 70s. I have never stopped. Probably 2 or 3 years, I took a bit of a break. If you took it cumulatively, I was out of the country for a bit. But other than that, I've always been an active gamer. My wife and I have been married 34 years. We've raised 6 kids. We have 4 grandkids. All of us have gamed together. Well, not my wife, not so much. But gaming has been a very, very big part of my life from when I was young, through adulthood, through being married, now being a grandfather. It's a very, very deep and rich, purposeful thing for me in my life. And now we have several different levels of things we're doing. One of the things that we're specifically going to talk about tonight is the mental health aspect in gaming. This is near and dear to my heart, and let me tell you why. I started a nonprofit foundation called the 9292 Foundation. Again, you can find out about it on the website. But let me talk about why we started that. On December 7th of 2021, so just not even a year and a half ago, we lost our oldest son to his long battle, about a year and a half, 2-year battle with mental health. Caught us completely off guard. We're a very close family. We're a big family. We have a lot of extended family members. And during that process of watching this happen, we learned some very, very difficult things. And of course, the ultimate tragedy is that we lost our son. But in that process, we also understood how overwhelmed the mental health care system is. And I'm going to very much tie this into gaming, and you'll understand. But the mental health care system is, we're losing people at a rate that is unprecedented. But outside of that, in the most tragic cases, there's a lot of difficulty going on in the world. And the mental health care system can't keep up with the demand. Time to get into a counselor could be 3 to 6 months, if you even find someone. So with all of that experience that was so tragic, through that, I understood that we could, through this amazing platform of gaming, have an opportunity to reach globally people who need the 4 basic things that my son expressed he couldn't find, wasn't feeling, and that was these. He would tell me, "Dad, I don't feel like I belong." Now, this was, just to understand, this was a 29-year-old, 6'3", incredibly handsome, one of the kindest human beings I've ever known. Matter of fact, after his passing, we had hundreds of messages from around the world of people that have known him as a tennis pro and a tennis coach. And the common thread throughout all of it was how kind he was. Now, all of that being said, it still ended up this way. But he would say, "Dad, I don't feel like I belong." He'd say, "Dad," and these were multiple conversations, right? Just tear-filled, hugging, sincere conversations. "Dad, I don't feel like I have anyone I can connect with," right? In the sense that, how can I connect with people that understand, or I don't feel like I can, what's going on in my head? Third was, "I don't feel like I have any skills." He just didn't feel like he did. I want to provide for a family. I want to have these things. And even though he had all those skills available to him, he still didn't feel like he did. And then the last thing was, he said, "Dad, the world just feels like such an unkind place." Now, how does that tie into gaming? It's a significant advantage that we have in gaming as a community and the work that we do at any level, right? If you simply want to, you play recreationally once in a while, you play full time, it's a source of income, you work in the industry, you're a competitive esports player, it doesn't matter what it is. It's a global community that has reach, and it has the potential to provide those 4 things: a place to belong, people to connect with, skills you can develop, and kindness. Now, I want to right out of the gate make a very, very, very important point here. And that is, I am a 1,000,000% endorser of you playing games. And I say that with the understanding, like anything, that there's balance, right? You have to be able to balance things out. And I actually have a formula, you can find it on my content, for how to get that balance so that you can meet your requirements, meet your expectations, and have the available time dedicated to what you want to do here. But first and foremost, I want you to understand the power of gaming as an activity is one of the most useful and underused tools we have in our society right now. On the mental health side of things, there's a company called Deepwell, just as an example. You can look them up. They're doing game development. They are all game developers and other people from different industries. They are doing game development as a scientifically based and research evidenced therapeutic tool for people that are struggling with different things. Now, it doesn't have to be the ultimate struggle that our son faced. It can simply be, I'm depressed, or I have issues of depression. I have issues of PTSD or anxiety or ADHD. Any of those things. Those of you that game for a resource to be able to get through those difficulties, you know the benefits. And when I say you need to be able to stand up and be proud of that, you need to be able to understand that just because the world doesn't recognize it fully yet, it is a fact. And you know if you experience that. Now, that's important as a basis, because when I'll give you an example. Every person I meet going somewhere, every person I meet, I ask them, I don't care how old they are, I don't care what they look like. If we're going to have a chance to have even a 2-minute conversation, I'm going to say, hey man, do you game? And this is the point I want to make as we break down these 4 things. When I ask that question, I can tell you, let me give you one experience that was just recent. I had, there was a young man, I told this story, this is a couple of weeks ago now. I was walking into Walmart. He was pushing carts, grabbing all the carts, the guys that do that. And he just looked like he was not having a great day. And so as I walked by him, I looked over and said, hey man, are you a gamer? Now, most people that look at me at my age, I'm 60, most people, younger will say, oh, no, sir, I'm going to college or whatever. I'm like, okay. And I'll kind of tell them, well, I own several gaming-based businesses. I stream every day. I play, I believe, anyway. So I give them a little bit of that. And all of a sudden, next thing you know, they open up. Now, this young man, as soon as I asked that, we had a 10-minute conversation. Probably, I hope I didn't get him in trouble at work. We had a 10-minute conversation in the parking lot. At the end of that conversation, he had a completely different look on his face. He had a completely different, energy about him. And we were laughing and smiling. We were talking about, he plays Call of Duty. I think he played R6 was the other one. And so we had this connection. So right out of the gate, he understood that he belongs in a community, I belong in a community, and we're in that community together. Now, we made a connection beyond age, beyond what he looked like, what I look like, how much money he makes, how much money, nothing. None of that mattered at that moment. Do you understand how powerful that is? So one, you belong to an incredibly broad, global, accessible, at scale community. You belong. And that human need is critical. And for many, many people, now, my kids were all grown or all raised on gaming. We did other things, though. We did sports, we camped, we hiked, we did all those kinds of things. But gaming was always integral to it. And that sense of belonging and things that we do is critical. When people don't feel as though they belong, then depression, heartache, trouble, frustration, all of that. So just by the fact that you game, even if you game solo, I had someone on my content today say, I don't do any online games. Great, but you still belong to the community. If I go somewhere and they say, hey, I play Red Dead Redemption, awesome, I love it. No, I think there's an online version of it now, because I play it too. Even though we may not talk online, you still belong to the community, to people that love that game. Now, with this young man, this connection that we now have, every time I ever see him, I can say, hey, what's up, Michael? And we can immediately talk, right? So that young man feels like he's connected to someone. Now, why is that important? Because maybe he doesn't have anyone else he's connected to. Maybe he doesn't get to talk to people. Maybe he doesn't get to share, his joys, his excitement, or any of that. So belonging, connection, and then skills. I put out a piece of content today that said, I was basically letting gamers like myself know that we underestimate the power and the tools and the skills that we develop through gaming. And the list is long. I mean, it is very, very long. But let's just talk about very basic things. Problem solving, social skills, leadership. There's a whole list of things. And now my mind just went totally blank. There are dozens of things, of skills that we develop, that we bring to the table. And what I was saying is, as an example of these skills, I believe that every employer should ask a potential employee, are you a gamer? Because access to those skills is something that is marketable and valuable to what you do or could do in the workplace or in other efforts that you're doing. The final one, and this is a big topic. I did a discussion on this at the Esports Stadium, Arlington, a couple of weeks ago, a week and a half ago, about this. This was a major issue that came up. Toxicity in gaming, right? So we talk about kindness. I have a video I put out, I don't know, it's got 50 or 60,000 views already, talking about how important this aspect is. And let's talk about toxicity for just a second, because this is something that deals directly, immersively into mental health. Most people will say in online games that they either will not go live on mic, they won't, they'll close down chat, or they'll just kind of get, they'll suffer through the toxicity there. But here's the thing. When it comes to where your mental health is, people will say there's nothing. I put out a video today. There's nothing you can do. Toxicity is never going to go away. But that's not true. All that it takes is steps from us in the gaming community. It takes us taking on a little bit of responsibility. Let me give you an example. How many times have you been in a game? Now, it's easy to get caught up in. I don't want to accuse anyone. Some people love, there's a fine line between trash talking and being toxic. Some people love to be toxic, right? And unfortunately, that's really a sign of how they may be struggling in other ways. I don't want to pick on any one person or, like an example that way, but you guys know what I mean. Toxicity is at a level beyond trash talk that's completely unnecessary. So think about this. And there's a very easy way to solve it, okay? There's a very easy way to start progressing through it. And I know because I've lived it in our community for years. If someone on your team, let's say you're playing R6 and someone on your team does not hold their position and you end up having a loss of that round, the typical thing in the gaming world will be to just flame that person, right? Like, you suck, you didn't hold your, whatever it is. The problem with that is it just fosters degradation of your gameplay in general. It doesn't do anyone any good. You don't feel better for yelling. They don't feel better for being yelled at, or vice versa. So what's the alternative that can help you to still be successful in what you're doing, change the toxicity level of the community, and potentially absolutely change someone's day, month, week, whatever it is, because you don't know the impact it'll have if you simply did this. Hey man, it's all good. We've all been there. We all do it. You can simply say that at that moment. Let's just, let's get to the next point. Now, that simple thing. Now, you may not be able to do that every single time. I get it. But maybe you could do it once, and then you could do it twice, and then you could do it 3 times. And I promise you, especially if you play with people on a regular basis, your friends, your family, whatever it is, randoms are a little bit tougher, but it can even be done there because I do it. All you have to say is, hey man, it's all good. We'll get them next time. Something that simple. And it begins to change the culture. Now, here's what's really critical about that. When people look at gaming from the outside world, non-endemic people that don't understand what gaming is really about, it has a reputation. And although that's improving, I'll give you an example, a personal example. We had a mom over here a couple of weeks ago, wonderful lady, and her husband were concerned because 2 of their boys, when they get on and play, and they have, one is on the autism scale, and one deals with PTSD or anxiety and ADHD. When they game, the language that flies out of their mouth is really disturbing, right? This is a family that doesn't kind of live that way. Why is that important to understand? It's important to understand for this reason. People in the outside world that don't game, because this mom doesn't game, views it now as a struggle of toxicity and something that's changing the behavior in a negative way of her sons. So if that is the view that comes in from outside, then the world says, hey, you shouldn't use gaming as a resource, a therapeutic resource for mental health, because it just makes it worse. So we have a responsibility in this amazing platform that we have. I know no one likes responsibilities, but I'm saying it's an easy one. To not only improve our mental health in the way and our emotional well-being in the way that gaming can do if we do it right, because I'll also interject this. If you get off the game feeling worse than when you got on, you're doing it wrong. I'm just telling you, you are doing it wrong. You should absolutely feel better, more relaxed, more clear, escaped, took a break from the world, whatever it was for you. You should feel better and better prepared for what's coming, that day or the next day or whatever, to get back to life. If you're not, then you're missing it. And it takes work. I get it. Sometimes it just takes work. But the outside world, coming back to that again, how can we tell them that there is tremendous benefit to people that struggle in all kinds of ways, whether they're lonely or depressed or ADHD or PTSD, like all the things I talked about? How do we convince the outside world to support those efforts if within our own community, our own ecosystem, we absolutely cannot change it? And it's an easy thing to get kind of sucked into. And I get it, especially for teenagers or other people. If you're the one that kind of says, hey, man, it's all good. You don't have to be like the mamsy-pamsy, oh, let's all just hug. Or I'm not saying that. But you can simply say, and still be in the context of your character, your personality, hey, man, it's all good. We'll get it next time and move on. No one's going to think twice about that. But the people that hear you say that, both in the game and outside of the game, people that see that kind of behavior are going to want to support you and support us in this ecosystem that we call gaming. Mental health is not going, the challenges to mental health are not going away. And the opportunity that we have in this platform to create a place to belong, people that you can connect with, skills that you can develop, and be able to share some kindness, not only is a benefit to everyone around us, but is a tremendous and massive benefit to us as well. You know what it feels like when you say something, or you know what it feels like when someone says something nice to you unexpectedly. Hey, man, I really like your car. Hey, that was a great play. Hey, your hair looks great today. Hey, man, I dig that shirt. Whatever it is, we know how that feels. But you know what feels better? What feels better is when we offer it. You know what it's like in game. Hey, nice shot. Wow, that was a clutch. That was incredible. You know how that feels. But think about how much better it feels when you're the one sharing it. Because when you know you've uplifted someone, and I know for a lot of people, this is a difficult thing to get their head around, especially because trash talk and toxicity can be kind of a culture. But it feels so much better on the person to the person providing it than you can even imagine. And when you get used to it, it is incredible. It is incredible. And people will start to adapt. Over time, people will start to adapt. And I've seen it in our own communities. I've seen it in my own team play. I've seen it throughout all the times that I've ever talked about this. It's absolutely 1,000,000% possible. Now, let's get back to one of the fundamental elements here. We love to game. And while I say that performance in games matters, it's secondary to the experience. The experience is primary. So whether you are winning or losing is irrelevant to the experience, outside of the fact we all like to win. I get it. But when you put winning as the primary factor, it's very easy to be toxic. It's very easy to be negative. And the more you think about that, the more you focus on that, and the more that someone maybe does make a mistake, or you make a mistake, or something doesn't go your way, the less likely you are to have success in that game. For many of you that want to be competitive players, maybe you just want to do local tournaments, maybe you want to compete at the professional level. Those kinds of things are the discussions that they're having in professional coaching, in professional management. They're saying, listen, composure has got to be maintained. And when you lose composure, you not only risk the result of the game, you completely ruin the experience of it. So it's possible to do this. It's not always easy. It's simple, but it's not always easy. But it's going to start with you. So when we talk about the experience of mental health in gaming, there are millions upon millions of people in the world that are struggling to simply find those four things. And if they have a couple of them, we all need them, all of them. Or we need them all. Place to belong, people to connect with, skills to develop, and kindness. And in all of that experience that we can provide, we can deliver that. And as we deliver it, we're going to receive it back, right? It's just common human behavior and common sense. So let me just conclude with this. I believe in all of you, and I am grateful that I've had, let's see, what is it now? Going on, I'm 60, so I've had, let's call it 45 solid years of gaming in this community. I think I know I've watched all the technology develop from pinball all the way through, and I have a deep, deep love for this community, but more importantly, I have a deep, deep love for each of you and what you can bring to it and what many of you are doing and what the great work that people that, you guys, these guys at Concord are doing is all part of it. Gaming is going to be the major impactor in the world going forward. And that's a whole nother level of discussions, and you're part of it. But when it comes to where your mental health, your emotional well-being, and all the things that you want to have as an experience that makes it positive in the world of gaming are at your disposal if you start taking easy steps. If you focus on the experience, the result will happen in a much better way. So, I challenge each of you as we finish to start taking the step. If you find that you're toxic, take one day, one time, one experience to change it. If you're one of those that's not, keep going forward with power. But I believe in you. I love you guys. If you were here, I would hug you. I'm a hugger. My grandkids, they know me as Papa Taco. Everyone that meets me, I hug. Know that you matter. Know that you belong. Know that you have people you can connect with. Know there are skills to develop, and know there is kindness to be had on both sides. And with that, I will see you in the games. Yeah. Yep. StreetTacoEater.com. Everything is on the website. All the links to our Discord, all of my content. We are starting a live show called Street Talk, the authentic side of gaming. And it's going to be delving into all the positive impacts gaming has on the world. But the easiest is literally to go to StreetTacoEater.com.